And you were telling me earlier about the process with coming up with your ideas and how long it takes. How long do you tend to have?
It's anywhere between 4 and 8 months, depending on the complexity, the availability of donor cars, whether we have to build the cars from scratch.
Donor cars. Never heard that before.
No, no.
And you designed these, didn't you? So talk us through, you know, how'd you come up with that idea? How'd you make it real?
It's a whole teamwork thing. I have a team of very talented guys around me who work, many of them worked for many years, and you know, we're forever striving to come up with different guns, different armaments, weapons, etc. And I think we called these motion detecting shotguns, I think was the word. And if you remember in the film, John Cleese as Q comes out, gives the working manual for the car to James Bond, and James Bond takes it, throws it in the air, and these two guns spin round and blow it apart.
No probs. So can you talk us through, you know, these guns, what the process is for designing them?
Well, initially I think it was in, I don't know if it's in the script or not, but somebody came up with the idea of having these motion detector guns, because we're always trying to come up with new weapons, new types of weapons.
Absolutely.
And these sort of come up out the bodywork, out the bonnet, they spin around, and they're both in unison. And if you remember in the film, John Cleese comes out, gives the working manual of the car to James Bond. James Bond looks at it, throws it in the air, and the guns home round and blow it apart.
Oh.
So, yeah, these were all made in our workshops.
And moving on to the front of the car, walk us through this. Sorry? Okay. So we go from guns to the front of the car, where it gets even more impressive. Talk us through the ideas here.
Well, no Aston would be complete without machine guns and rockets.
No, quite right.
I mean, in the past they've come out of the headlights, they've come out of grills. In this instance, they come out of the front radiator grille, which recedes, and then these all appear. And on the ice lake, these come into full use in the battle against the Jaguar XKR.
And you must have really seen a change through your career from sort of physical stuff to the more digital process today.
Yeah.
What's that transition been like?
I think the initial thoughts when the big CGI revolution came on the scene was that we probably didn't have a job for very much longer. In actual fact, what it has done is it has expanded our job. Because of CGI, now they can attempt bigger scope films.
So there's no limit?
So there's no limit, but the interactive side for us has expanded us enormously. On GoldenEye, when the first days of CGI, my crew was about 40 technicians, and by the time we got to the film this car was in Die Another Day, I had 120 technicians working on it, and that's kept constant since then. It actually expanded our whole department.
So what does it feel like then for your job, knowing that you're creating cars and films where there's nothing that can't be done? That's got to be pretty exciting.
Well, some things can't be done, but we try and achieve as much as we can practically. You know, I think the heritage of Bonds is that their history is in real, doing things for real, and that's what we try to stick to even up to this day.
Because although these things are out of this world that take place in the Bond films, they're always so believable. And I guess that's the key. You've got to keep that up, haven't you? You've got to have the audience convinced.
Well, I think it always has to be. They have to be believable, and there has to be some logic to them. As soon as you start not having a logic to why something's happening, then I think you lose it. You know, all these weapons here are all possible, and that's what we strive to, you know, keep going. The fact that they are believable and not just total, unreal.
What was your favourite gadget, would you say?
Oh God. There's hundreds of them.
Give us a flavour.
No, I think these two cars, this and the Jaguar XKR, you know, big minigun coming out the back, its rockets launchers out the front. It was a real duel between the two, you know, and the fact that we had to adapt both cars to be four-wheel drive, it made it a real accomplishment for the whole crew, I think, by the time we'd shot the whole sequence.
And how many cars do you use in a film?
The number of cars in the film depends on how complex the sequence is. For example, in Tomorrow Never Dies, with the BMW 750, we had 15 of those. You know, there were 4 adapted to not see the driver, so the driver was hidden behind, you know, low down. There were others that we built weapons into, similar to this. There were others that we took the engines out and were able to jerk through the air and fire through the air, plus the real ones for driving. So we had 15 of those.
Wow.
There were dying of a day that we adapted 4 Astons and 4 Jags. On the World Is Not Enough, that was an interesting one with the Z8, because when they decided to use the Z8, there was only one prototype in existence. We eventually got a second prototype, which we were able to use, but to fulfil the requirements of the schedules of the filming, we had to build 2 replicas of the Z8, you know, to ensure that we could complete the filming.
And talk us through Casino Royale, and there's that amazing car flip. I tried to count how many times that was, and I'm actually not quite sure. But can you tell us how you made that happen?
As far as the rolling car, the Aston in Casino Royale, it's a tried and tested method where you have a piston that comes out of the ground. A lot of it was down to the skill of the stunt driver, who hit it at the right speed and triggered the cannon at exactly the right moment. It was just a great bit of driving and a great bit of timing.
How much do you love your job?
I love it to bits, yes. It's like every boy's dream, isn't it? I love it.
Did you grow up wanting to do this, or did it just sort of happen?
Initially at school I was going to be a scientist, and then I went to work on my first film. Was a film called Tommy, and I was a great Who fan. And as soon as I saw, you know, got involved in the special effects side of that, I opened every tin of baked beans that was in the famous scene there in Margaret, all 500 gallons of them. And just it took me overnight, and I instantly became obsessed with learning engineering and the craft of special effects.
And are you always thinking of the next idea, the next special effect?
Dreaming, yeah, I think is probably the word. Go to sleep at night, whatever film I'm on, trying to come up with new ideas, new sequences, something that's different you haven't seen before. It's a constant quest.
And where do you get that inspiration from?
I don't want to say it's an inspiration. I try not to look at other films and adapt them. You know, I think you just diversing of it. When I did Batman Begins, I'd never seen any other Batman films, and you know, it has to come from here. I think, you know, you might be subconsciously persuaded by other things around you, but ultimately it has to come out of your head, because I think if you're copying something, then it's not original.
And what does it feel like when you watch your films back and you see your ideas put into action in the most exciting possible way?
I think pride, comes out more than anything, and pride in my crew. You know, they've worked horrendously hard and used every sort of creative juice in their bodies, and when to see it all come to fruition on the screen with the music, and is pride, I think, in all of them is the biggest thing I get out of it. Inception was even more challenging than normal, because it was a very complicated script and required a massive amount of practical effects, along with a massive amount of somewhat invisible CGI, which I think was why the audiences gelled with it so much. You know, it was a lot of people had to go and see it twice, 3 times, 4 times, just to get it in their head.
But how did you get it in your head? How did you visualise as you were going along?
Well, Chris Nolan has very specific ideas about what he wants to see, and we bounce off of each other. As you know, we had the revolving corridor, and I said, "Well, how long do you want it?" He said, "Well, 100 foot long." So it evolves, and I back an idea to him. He comes back with another idea. It's like a table tennis match, really, and we bounce off of each other, and you eventually end up with the end result.
And an Oscar?
Yes, it took a while. It took nearly 36 years, but got there in the end. Very thrilling.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
So can you give us a hint then of what the special effects are likely to be in the next Bond?
No. Don't go
Oh,
there.
come on.
Nope. Sworn to secrecy.
Okay, fair enough.